Renegades, the boys, yeah, all of them versus Natus Vincere. That's what's on the cards going forward. We got our first semifinal here in Shanghai. And my first matchup of the day, my name is Trace Son of Saranthus, alongside of my friends here in Pimp and Maniac. And guys, I know that you just sat here through what we just watched. There were some real heroic plays.
Where were you, Trace?
I was actually over there in the green room, like a little skybox thing. It wasn't far, but yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I think there's something to say about Simple being an immortal.
Yeah, it's very fair to say Simple. I think saved Navi, to be honest.
Yeah.
They were on the brink of losing 0-2 on that Inferno game and looked full in control, CT side, all the money in the world, very good situation. And then Simple happened. 1v4, ace, clutch, 20 seconds left. You can pretty much take all the conditions, put them on top of each other, still wins the round.
Too bad MIBR, aka Mortals, didn't get to buy him. There would have been a great synergy there.
Yeah, that could have been an interesting timeline. But, I mean, I guess we could spitball on what could have been, what should have been, what may never be. But what we do have are the Renegades taking on Navi. This is a semifinal, and mind you, if you are just tuning in, you missed the fact that Navi did just play their quarterfinal, and that is going to be a talking point about this, regardless of win or lose. I think that there's something to be said about a momentum that can or cannot be taken from playing earlier in the day. And with that, we'll take a look at the brackets. Maniac, we got Navi Ints before this. And of course, we got all the action of yesterday, but perhaps walk me through this bracket a little bit.
Well, as we can see here, first of all, Energy took the better of Vitality 2-0. Those were like tight games. I remember a lot of overtime on Overpass. On the other side, Fnatic, the best of North with a 16-1 on the third map. Unexpected, really North beating FaZe. So that was legit for them to be here, but they didn't have what it took to beat Fnatic. So that's the semifinal Energy Fnatic we're going to have after the one we're going to see now. And Renegades also yesterday beating NIP 2-0, and we have just witnessed this morning Navi beating ENCE 2-1.
You gotta feel bad for the Finns a little bit.
It does.
A little bit. I mean, they came into this tournament super hot. They came in after a great major one. They came in after a great tournament at Blast Sao Paulo, only to face Navi in a quarterfinal. And I would say a Navi, as we said, and as we claim to be the best Navi we've seen in a long time. So in that regard, a little bit tough situation for ENCE. But then again, if you want to be the best, you got to be the best.
Right, and I think that's logic from Pimp that you can find over on his Twitter. I'm not sure what the handle is, but
nah, it doesn't matter.
It's fair enough. Talking a little bit about that logic. Now, some things to put into consideration, just because we know what they were doing after the matchup, just because we know that they've just played. Not only is there the factor that they have gotten a little bit of a warm-up in, they're also eating right now. And I don't know if you guys know this, but after you eat, there is that period of, man, I'm just a little lethargic. I'm kind of tired.
Yeah, to be honest, I saw some of them like resting on the table, like with the arms up, you know, with like head in front.
Like old school class status.
Yeah, exactly, the class snap happening. So yeah, definitely, they are good size of it. You know, as you said, they're warmed up. They're probably, they don't need for so long to get acclimated to the keyboard and everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they just had a long series, 3 maps, tiny break, and then potentially go for 3 maps again. So what a test for the stamina.
Let me be the first guy to say that I don't think it matters as much as we're trying to make it, right?
Well, I mean, I don't see that we're making it a big deal, but it's definitely something that has to be a talking point.
Sure, it's worth to talk about. The thing is, Renegades have just seen this matchup as well, right? They spent a lot of mental capacity in order to suck everything they just saw from Navi against ENCE into them as well. So they're trying to prepare for this game as well. So it's not that it's as hard to watch a game as it is to play it, but there's still a lot of effort being put into it. So yes, Navi have the advantage of going in hot, you know, to the game. Just play it on the same stage, you know, don't have to reset up all the kind of stuff. But as for Renegades, you know, they got to chill out, they got to watch everything Navi did. So there's pros and cons for both. And I think the more we talk about it, the more significant we make it. And I don't think it should be that big of a talking point, considering that this is a game that stands on itself.
It's taking over you, Joe.
Anything else that you're upset about, Jacob?
Lots of things, but not the stuff that I want to talk with you about, Trace.
Okay, so maybe you two can talk about it.
We can have a conversation.
Yeah, we can have a very close and in-depth conversation today.
In-depth, intimate, whatever you want it to be, that's all on you guys, because this semifinal is upon us. But I need to remind you who all makes this very much possible. And we're going to start with Hellcase, the official partner of StarSeries Season 7. In fact, you can use code SLTV for extra guap, or you can use SLTV25 for that 25% refill bonus. That's sweet, sweet cheddar. Skrilla, as the once Skrill Lord we had with us would say.
Absolutely.
And
should I talk about other stuff, like skins, for example?
We might as well. If you're on the topic of skins, we might as well get it out there.
I seem to recall something called CS Money, right? Where you can trade your unwanted skins. That would be 3 clicks. And you go over to CS Money and you can get that. You know, who knows, maybe get lucky, get that sweet, sweet Medusa. might never know.
I mean, while we're at it, Maniac, I know that you're a guy who loves to bet, right? So if you head into gg.bet and you use the code STARBET, you get $15 for free to bet for. And I think you'd be a good betting guy.
Me?
Yeah.
It's because of the analytics, right? Because of the numbers he can crunch and run and
Because
say.
he's so smart and his head is so big.
I don't know. We are kind of close to Harmony in Switzerland. I don't know.
My
Why
goodness. Nonetheless, it's not only them. It's going to be Zaugear, Honeymoon Dessert, and DX Racer all here on station as well. And just getting a feel for the vibe earlier, you guys obviously got to see some of it as well. Moving away from the topic that obviously makes Pimp a little upset, so we won't talk about it anymore. What we will talk about is this crowd is a Navi crowd.
Definitely.
I mean, it's kind of cool, right? I've never been in China in a stadium event, and I was fearing a little bit that they wouldn't root for anyone apart from the Chinese teams. But even on day one, we saw the crowd come in strong, and we saw them being very loud in terms of also Fnatic as well, who are still in the tournament. So the fact that they're rooting for the old 1.6 teams, you know, the legends of the game in terms of names, is kind of cool to see.
Right, your Forest, your Get Rights, they were definitely
even
loving,
Edward, you know.
Yeah, even Edward. I mean, we could talk a little bit about the GOATs all day, but I really think that Shanghai and Counter-Strike is a pretty cool happening they've got going on around here. We do have just a few extra minutes, obviously, because Navi need to stuff their gullets with food. And might I add that the catering was superb.
So yeah, something that does interest me. What are they eating up there?
Well, it was like this steak, sort of like rice, cheese comp. I don't really know, honestly. I had it. It was fantastic. 10 out of 10. Would eat again. Now, what we can talk about is some maps. How about that? We might be able to get into a veto sooner rather than later. But before we go ahead, let's just get some hypotheses
We
out
can
there.
talk about what we know, right? I think the maps that are going to get removed are pretty clear-cut. Navi should remove Cache. There is no reason for them not to. That's the map that Renegades played. And on the other hand, Renegades should remove Overpass. That's been their first veto throughout the whole tournament. Navi just played it, looked fantastic on it. I have no reason for Renegades not to remove Overpass, even though this map is on the bottom line here. Now the picks are a little bit more interesting. There's many different scenarios. Navi could decide to go for an Inferno, could decide to go for a Train. They've looked good against ENCE still. So I think the pick is pretty wide open.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that sentiment. You consider you have a Mirage in there as well, a map that notoriously Navi are known for being very dominant on. Renegades obviously also play the map to a high level, but if you're Navi, you want to go with your comfort pick. I feel they're in a position right now where after that ENCE game, as long as they pick something they're comfortable with, they should be in a good position.
Do you think, just to touch on what you were saying earlier about having the Renegades here in person, I mean, I rode the shuttle with them, so I know they sat here and watched that entire best of 3. You think they were able to pull enough information from that to maybe go into the veto with maybe a different mindset than they woke up with today?
Not sure if they go into the veto with a different mindset, but it's definitely a factor that plays in. Like one of the things that you have to be very careful with, and that's one of the things that the crowd out there and the community out there may not know, is the fact when you anti-strat, you have to do it a little bit carefully. You can anti-strat too hard, you can go in there and you can watch everything Navi did, but if Navi has an extra gear or an extra page on that playbook, they can easily change it all up, and then Renegades will sit back and think, what we just saw right there, didn't that happen? And that will, play into a deficit for themselves, right? So you have to anti-strat carefully. You have to use what you can use, and then try not to get too affected by what you just seen. Because I'm 100% sure that Navi has more than just that one playbook that they're playing with right now.
And I totally agree, and specifically the timing of it, right? You have to think about Renegades. Sure, they were watching the game, but they don't have a lot of time to come up with ideas or plans.
Right,
this is pretty much a story of, okay, this is our pool of tactics, and maybe we're going to focus more on this one or this one based on what we've seen. But usually what would happen in an event with a different schedule is that you get to see your opponent, then you get to sleep on it, maybe talk about it, have a briefing with the team.
Right.
That's not the case here. All they can do is make decisions based on what they've seen. That's about it.
Better than theory striking, because that is something where we could talk into a big circle about how to play a certain situation, this, that, I know that was something that happened with Cloud9 a lot. We would have Jordan over there theory striking because the guys have been playing for at least 10 decades now or somewhere along that sort of time frame. And they can run you through entire scenarios verbally. But when it goes to transferring into the server, that's a totally different idea.
It's the difference maker between being a good coach, being a good player, and a bad player. If you're able to see a game and locate the mistakes and see this is something we can use, this is something that they do well, this is something they do bad, sure, that's the first step. But if you're not able to translate that into a solution, well, you're not worth anything. And that's why some coaches out there need to work on that aspect. I've had coaches myself who were very good at watching a demo, but couldn't really come up with solutions. And I've had coaches who were good at both, and those are the valuable ones. And that's exactly the same thing the players have to do. If you can locate a problem, sure, it's fine. But if you don't have a solution in order to either punish it or fix the problem, then you're worth nothing.
Nice. With the hard-hitting facts, it's been like this all day?
Well,
just ready to just get in there.
I'm in it. No, I'm in the zone. I think the first game was quite exciting, and I have trouble, calming down. I'm just ready for the next game.
You guys are just a little on edge, and I would be too, knowing that this is a semifinal, knowing what the implications are, and making it to the grand final tomorrow will be the real endurance test. We could talk about that like we did earlier, but then tomorrow is an actual best of 5. If you can't do it here, well, pack it up. Show's over.
That is a long thing, right? Best of 5.
It could very well be a best of 5.
I've never been on the desk for best of 5. Quite excited to watch that come and that.
Surprise. Surprise. Either way, we don't necessarily have the map vetoes just yet. At this point, we're almost ready to kick it into podcast mode, but not just yet. I think there's still a little bit more that we could squeeze out of this. I know that you do your homework, and I know that you have quite a bit of numbers right there. I see the word facts. Now I want you to just drop some facts on these folks at home. Hey guys.
Facts. Okay. Well, here's the thing. We're gonna take the facts sheet. Get ready for that. Now, if we want to talk about Renegades and we are trying to find solutions or silver linings for them going against this Navi that looked impressive in that best of 3, definitely. Well, the T side. The T side is the spearhead for Renegades. That's where they have impressed me the most. And if you want just some numbers, currently, when Renegades get the opening frag, that's 84% conversion. So whenever you give them the open frag, they're going to win 8.5 rounds out of 10. You better not do that, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. They have the best flash assist at the tournament.
Okay.
1 kill out of 2 comes from a flash. Can you imagine how insane that is?
That's pretty good.
Just to make a comparison, like general teams have 0.25.
Right.
So that's twice as big as
just
the
to put it
general
onto a
pack.
scale.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's quite a contrast to Navi, who we
they had the
determined
lowest,
they have the lowest in the entire tournament, which we found out in the pregame for their first game.
But why would you need to flash when you can convert eco rounds every single time? 95. I'm just going to make a stat up because they're all made up at some point. I think there's like a statistic about statistics being made up. Navi, conversion of eco rounds. Now that's a talking point.
When you say conversion of eco rounds, is like they survive the eco rounds or they win their eco rounds?
Like somehow they buy up with the most ridiculous stuff and somehow put together, even though they had lost the round prior.
You know what that's called? It's called an X factor in Simple.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here is the interesting stat about it, right? When we watch Navi do this force buy, maybe they have a Deagle, 1 AK, a few imps. People would get surprised because Simple would not get the AK. That would probably be Zeus, Edward, Flamey, whoever, and then people would get enraged, like, why is Simple doesn't have the AK? Well, here is my theory. You can agree with it or not. Here is the thing. If you take the chances of players to get a frag, right? If you give an AK to Simple, then his chances are up there, right? But maybe if Zeus has a Deagle, his chances are here, right? So now if you change that, and you give an AK to Zeus, and you give a Deagle to Simple, he stays very close. So actually, the general is higher. That is why I think Simple is having a Deagle and the other one is having the AK. Because you maximize your chances of everyone having frags because you have an alien on your team.
It's like we practiced that.
Yeah, we've been rehearsing that for quite some time.
I was quite happy if you follow me on that.
The peripheral vision, just so that you can understand all the bars and graphs and charts that you could possibly imagine. We're just going to make them for you here live on the desk using hand singles, which you have to be careful with these days. You don't really want to upset it.
Yeah, you don't want to flip the finger, huh?
Yeah, which is also interesting because yesterday we saw that. I mean, that's something to talk about by itself. Let's clarify what exactly happened there. We've seen the tweets post the game. We've seen the tweets from the side of Renegades and pretty much the embrace from Nip. Now, what happened there was what, Jacob?
I mean, I think some of the Renegades players had the feeling that the crowd was calling out their positions, or at least trying to help NIP in certain important rounds. And at some point, the finger got up there. Not this finger, but the other one. And
this one.
That one right there, Trace. Beautiful. And as much as you want to talk about that, and as much as you want to, dive into that, I think it's only a cool thing. I mean, it's cool that we're allowed to actually show emotions. It's cool that we're allowed to react on what is an unfair situation. And I can only encourage the crowd who cannot hear me right now to stop doing that.
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's pretty much nailed that. I mean, it's a pretty sour please thing to do. It's like not a cool thing to do.
Bad manners,
It is bad manners, but also you kind of have to think about the players on the stage and how they can't rely on that at any given point in time. But they do feel the stage rumbling when they start to make noise. Oh, are we going to get knifed? Oh, God.
Okay, maybe I'm going to say something silly.
Let's hear some controversy.
But don't you think Counter-Strike is probably one of the only disciplines where the audience really has that much more information than the players? I'm trying to think about sports. I'm trying to think about other disciplines.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, StarCraft 2 would fit that, but it's really hard to give information. League of Legends as well. Like, Counter-Strike is a game where, sadly, the audience can really influence what's happening. It's like in front of you or not, you can shout it in front of you or not. So that's very specific to our game, but it is a shame that we have even this conversation.
That said, though, it's really playing with the devil. I've been in a position before as a player on a stage where the crowd tried to help me, and sometimes you get like lurked into a position where you think the crowd is telling you one thing, but it's actually telling you a complete different thing, and you end up messing the entire thing up. So I learned quickly that it's better just to ignore that shit and just focus on your own game, simple as it is. Crowds gotta stop being bad man, and crowds in general just gotta enjoy the game for what it is.
Yeah, and sound cues being as big as they are in-game are certainly as big as they are out-of-game. I.e., where I'm sitting right now, the sound cues are just about on point, and what they're telling me is that it's time to get down to the stage. So, what we will do in roughly half a minute is greet our teams on the stage, re-invite Natus Vincere onto the platform, and, well, the Renegades for the first time.
So we got 25 seconds to race.
How about roughly
20?
5? Let's do it. 1, 2, 3, go.
On stage, Renegades. Please welcome on stage, Navi.
That's right, taking to the stage, Natus Vincere and the Renegades. Navi just returning home, back to roost, it seems here. After getting themselves a little bit of lunch and getting ready for this semi-final, this is going to be a best of 3 if you're just joining us. StarSeries Season 7 has been online and all week going down here in Shanghai, but now, well, now is when the big show begins. We're about to get one of these teams into the grand finals of this event, and they have to start here at this semi.
Yeah, and a semi-final that could very well be a final. No disrespect to the other two teams. If we had said at the beginning of the event, Renegades Navi could be a final, yes, potentially, sure, not the bracket, won it otherwise. It's great, it gives a chance to Energy and Fnatic to get in the final, but there is a lot riding on that game particularly.
I would definitely agree. I think Navi so far have stepped up in this tournament. They started out very slow, as we know them to do. Lost the game to Vici Gaming, which we can say was a bit of an outlier compared to how they played ever since. Whereas for Renegades, I feel confident saying that so far in this tournament, they have been the best performing team. So as you said, this could potentially be the final, but regardless, it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, and as much as we always are in agreement around here, it is a weird sentiment that sometimes that's just how the brackets crumble. And in this regard, this semi-final is going to be delivering us the Australian/New Zealand side versus the Russian-Ukrainian side. Now, we've seen what both these teams are capable of. There's a lot of explosiveness we could talk about on either side of the book here, because the Renegades, yeah, that was pretty loud. The Renegades have shown promise here in 2019.
Let's talk about JKS just for a little bit. I think this player is a player that has reinvented himself. This is a player back when I was playing for Team Liquid. They were in talks with him, or at least there was rumors surrounding him replacing me and somebody else in that lineup, because back then he was a very solid player. It didn't happen. He kind of fell off. He wasn't really playing that well back then. He was just this star player, very quiet guy who never really got into the game and never really made the big impact. But this year, so far for Renegades, without a doubt, I can say he's went through a very, very sick transformation. Potentially one of the best players North America has right now.
Yo, he's dropped some serious numbers here in Shanghai, and we'll come back to the Renegades. We do have Navi on the screen now. We might as well go ahead and dive right into what is this Natus Vincere. Navi Davi, as I think they say around here.
Navi Davi.
Flamey. Now, a player that can show up in a big way, but do we feel like he's shown up in a big way already today?
Well, in the tournament today in general, no. No, he hasn't really. He's been rather quiet. Now, that has been like compensated by his teammates, obviously, which is how you want it to be in Counter-Strike. You can have a player that basically goes into a tournament unnoticed. Definitely Simple and Electronic are pulling their weight, and I would say at the moment, Edward is the one that's compensating for Flamey being a little bit off. I think Edward is overperforming if you consider his general performances. Flamey, on the other hand, is a little bit more quiet than he used to be. So all in all, things are balanced. But Flamey is definitely not being the Flamey that we could see at a major, the Flamey that can, burn everything.
No, and that seems to be an ongoing problem, right? Because Flamey is the type of guy who will show up at one certain tournament, be the Flamey that we all believe that he would be in the future, and then all of a sudden you have 2 tournaments where he's not really performing well, and that is a big problem for Na'Vi, because I think the silver lining of this Na'Vi lineup is when you have Simple and Electronic showing up time and time again, always putting up big numbers. If you had a third consistent guy related to a stylist, you always have Dupree, you always have Device. Now, if you had a Magic Spore as well into that calculation, that could be the Flamey for Na'Vi, and that would mean Na'Vi instantly, in my books at least, would be a team that you could always count on being, the second best, the third best team in the world.
I think you're on the right path, Jacob. I really do.
Oh, thanks, man.
And I can tell that this matchup has you a little uneasy, and I can understand why. It's a very tense situation. It's not so much tense for Ints anymore. It's now tense for the Renegades. And I feel like all the kinks of the morning have to have been worked out by now for the side of Na'Vi, especially when the entire crowd is cheering for Simple.
Listen, I feel the effect on myself watching the game. Right? I've just watched Na'Vi win in a very convincing fashion on the third map, and I'm thinking, how can Renegade beat them? Because what I've seen has impressed me on that last map. Now, obviously, that is just a psychological bias. Renegades have shown great things before, great things to qualify for the semi-final. JKS is completely on fire. Yakem is having a good game. Ezer as well. The map pool is good. There are arguments for Renegades definitely in that best of 3.
Well, speaking of Jacob, he's come up in a big way in this entire tournament. I feel like this is a name we've talked about time and time again. Obviously, it's not really in the shadow of JKS because they're teammates, but in tandem, they have been able to produce quite a showing here.
He's sort of like the Electronic, or he's sort of like is what Electronic is for Simple in Renegades, and as you said, he's been playing very well. Also a guy that had to reinvent himself. This is a guy that in 2015 at the DreamHack Cluj-Napoca major, I think he was playing hearts out, some of the best Counter-Strike we've ever seen from him. Then he went missing for 2 years, playing for some Norwegian teams, playing for an international Dignitas lineup that never really made any progress. And all of a sudden, he finds himself in Renegades, a team that for a long, long time have been stuck in the same lingo. They were always decent in NA, they were always good in practice, but never really got to showcase that in tournament. Now he finds himself in a team in Renegades that you have to legit consider a top 5 team in the world. If they can beat Na'Vi right here, if they can go into a grand final of StarSeries once again, I would say that their run has been just as impressive as ENCE. The only difference is ENCE did it at the major, and Renegades couldn't quite beat MIBI in that quarterfinal.
Okay.
That said, though, they played to the same level. They have some of the same aspects going on for them, and they have players that sort of have reinvented themselves and is playing better Counter-Strike than we have ever seen them play.
Would you agree with that, Maniac?
Yes, definitely. When we talk about the similarities between ENCE and Renegades, to me, the most striking aspect is the T side. Like, I think both teams have a very well-constructed play style. They never really throw away rounds. There is always a plan. Even if they get, if they lose the entry frag, then they always have a fallback on how they want to play the round. I think they can diversify the rhythm with which they play. Both teams have a very wide map pool, as far as I'm concerned. So definitely similarities between Renegades and ENCE. And I would even go as far as say that their weakness, their CT side, is also the same. So if you think about it, Na'Vi just had to deal with ENCE that has a very similar profile. Maybe they already have the keys to beat a team like Renegades.
Well, the keys to the ignition need to start here. We're not remixing it. We're going straight in for what is the veto of this first semifinal. Guys, where are we going? And I just, well, how do you know? Inferno.
You know what? That's very interesting, right? We just saw a veto process where Na'Vi picked into Inferno as their own map pick against ENCE, and now they get it gifted, sort of speaking, by Renegades. Na'Vi then picks Mirage, which means, as we talked about in the first matchup as well, this is 2 teams that have a similar map pool.
Yeah, very much. I think at this point,
it's got to be Train.
It could be swapped, and that would still make sense. Train
sure.
is going to be so. All the cards are here for an amazing best of 3. The reason why both teams played all 3 maps to a very good extent. Na'Vi could have picked Inferno, as Jacob said, they've done it before. Renegades could totally have picked Mirage, they have done it throughout the tournament, and Train is a very good map for both teams. So, all in all, it's going to be a banger.
You like that?
I do,
banger.
very much.
Inferno. Let's focus on Inferno, the first map of the series. Jacob, with that big, resounding smile on your face, I have to know what it is that's on that big mind of yours.
I'm just happy to get to witness you work, Trace, that's all.
Well, I'm here all day and tomorrow.
Yeah,
and
I'm so happy.
Then I don't know if I see you guys anytime soon, but maybe. There's
Hopefully
a point.
not.
here that Inferno is the first playground.
Sure, and I think that's going to be a very thrilling series. I think Inferno in general is a map that Na'Vi plays well. We just saw it against ENCE, but it also was a map where they were pressured down to the narrow.
Very much.
It required Symbol to come up big. It required Symbol to do 2 aces, a 1 versus 4 clutch with the AWP for them actually to feel confident coming into the map. Whereas for Renegades, you can see the results over here. The only team they've lost to as of recently is Astralis, no shame in that. Winning against Vitality, winning against Tyloo, winning against FaZe. The only downside of that is that it's been very close games, but that's also a testament to how well Renegades are playing right now. Even though it gets down to the narrow, even though it gets into those close quarter scenarios, they seem to tend to win all of them, and that is a great asset to have.
Well, you see a 16-3 loss there from Vici on the Na'Vi side. Now that's a little bit of a wild card.
Let's just pretend that game didn't happen.
Okay,
Listen,
I guess we could do that. If we could have production just erase that from
Sure.
the graphic. No, I understand.
This is just a typical Na'Vi style. What was surprising is that the first game was the best of 3, and they still lost it. Because we are pretty much used to Na'Vi, making a bad start in a tournament, losing the first map, but obviously not a 16-3. Definitely not lose their whole best of 3. But if you look at what happened after that, then that was just an alert, and Na'Vi pretty much started the tournament right after.
Well, they had to start somewhere, and in fact, where we're going to be starting is Inferno, just a few minutes away now. Make sure you head over to one of our lovely sponsors of CS.money or Hellcase.com or GG.bet. They're all there for you, and they're all official partners here of StarSeries Season 7. Guys, I don't want to get into the predictions right away. I feel like it's a little bit of a cop-out to go this early at them, but I think this one's a true 50-50.
Let's talk about Kassad then. Let's talk about the coaches. Yeah, I would like to talk about Kassad. I think that's one guy right now within the scene of Counter-Strike who does not get enough credit for what he's done with Renegades.
Agreed.
He has a history with Renegades. He was coaching them for, I think, a year when they were not doing so well. They were just this mediocre team in NA, never really doing any big results, sometimes qualified for tournaments, sometimes didn't. Then he left the team. He was not with them for a year, and then he came back.
Well, they bring in Ryu in the interim, right?
Like, yeah, let's not talk about that. Nothing really
never really
changed,
happened. Okay, now
again,
that's one that you can
erase
forget.
That from the timeline as well. Now Kassad comes back into this lineup, filled with new ideas, filled with new energy, filled with players, Lias and Gratisfaction, who comes in with new blood to this lineup, new motivation, and all of a sudden you see Renegades transforming from a team that always was considered a mediocre team, always was considered a joke in NA, to be completely honest. They were so good in practice, never translated that into official games. Nowadays, those Renegades, as said, a team that we seriously have to consider as one of the very best in the world.
Well, if you want to stay on the topic of coaches, what about Kane?
What about Kane? It's really hard to say. I mean, I was going to say the same about Kassad. Here is the thing. Our position when it comes to coach pretty much relies on the result of the team, right? And I don't like that at all.
You don't like that the coach is reflected of the result?
I don't like that we do post-result analysis, basically. So if a team is winning, then we say the coach is doing very well. If a team is losing, we say the coach is doing a bad job. I think reality is more complex than that.
Okay,
definitely, Kassad is very probably doing something great with Renegades. Otherwise, that wouldn't make sense for them to be that good at the moment. But what is frustrating for me, and I could probably go and talk to people and try to figure it out myself, but I don't have the information. I don't see what's happening. I can maybe read the body language. I can see how a coach, for example, is invested emotionally in the game, how much he talks. But first of all, the rules are very restrictive when it comes to coach talking. That's the first one. Then all the background work we don't get to see. We have no idea what's happening, and we don't know how much they participate in the life of the team in general. So the coach is a very frustrating point for me in terms of I would love to know more. I would love to know how things work, how the coach is involved, and I just don't.
And we're talking about Kane from Na'Vi here, and I feel like I never once heard that word. There was a little bit of a skate around, so let's skate it on over to you, Jacob. I feel like you've got an opinion here as we go into a knife round.
As much as I agree with what Maniac said, I think you sometimes can translate what's happening with the coach within a team, right? The attitude of Renegades, for example, have changed a lot since Kassad came back in. They stayed in Poland for 5 straight weeks at the major, practicing, something they would never have done had he not been there to tell them that. It's the whole culture around, being a coach. And I think being a coach is not necessarily only about what you offer in-game, but also what you offer in terms of player management. And you can see a clear difference in how Renegades approaches the game. Now, as for Kane, I think his most, prominent job is to tell Symbol to sometimes calm down, and when Symbol says, I want this, he says, yes, Symbol, I'll give it to you.
Okay. And that's just a brief synopsis of what we theorize is going on.
Sure. We don't know, right?
Obviously, we're not privy to the internals of the Na'Vi camp, but that has been a talking point within the community for at least a little bit now. And I guess now that we have on the cards a semifinal matchup, this will be a true testament.
For the coach.
For the coach, for the coach, for the structure, for the team, period.
Let's just say the team that's going to win the semifinal is going to be in the grand final.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
How did you pull that off? Myself there.
Experience, a lot of games watched.
Okay.
Okay, how about this? Who's going to win this game, Maniac? Inferno?
I wouldn't go for Navi, just because I think they've run through the motion this morning. They've been tested. They survived, and it's definitely pushed them to the limits. They could have been eliminated 0-2. They didn't. Simple caught on fire, literally. Well, not literally, of course. But I think Navi's in a position to win.
And Mr. Jacob Vinicki.
I hate doing predictions in 50-50 games because, to be quite honest, there's no reason to do them. I think both teams have a realistic chance of winning this game. I think both teams are playing into some of the same strengths. And as much as you want to vouch for one of the teams, you're going to disappoint a fan base. So in regards to, keep peace out there, I'm going to say this is going to be a draw.
Wow. I don't know that production was ready for a graphic for a draw, nor was the tournament structure, the system, all of that. Somehow, I guess you'll remain neutral. What I'm going to say,
Swiss flag coming out.
I think that this could be a Renegades game if they get into the fight early. If they get in there and they disrupt through the back.
And what if they don't, Trace?
And if they don't, well, they're going to open the door back up for what was just Navi on the last map of that last series versus Eds.
That's the point, right? Predictions are cool and all that kind of stuff, but in theory, right, this is a game between two very close teams that ideally could go both ways. None of us know exactly how it's going to play out. It's going to be up to Simple. It's going to be up to JKS. It's going to be up to JKM. It's going to be up to Electronic. How much do they want it? Do they want to go into the grand final, or do they want to bow out here? I think it's going to be a super close, a super tense game, and I'm going to go with Navi.
Okay, well, somehow, some way, it looks like we're all going for Navi, and that's just the way that one went down, didn't it? Kind of strange how those things work out. Anyway, I think we're just about ready to get into the game, so we're going to do just that. Thank you guys very much. We're going to come back in between maps, but for the meantime, we do have a Sadakist and a bad Birchill ready to bring you this best of three, this first semifinal of StarSeries Season 7.
Just want to correct you, Trace. You are our meantime. We're the show, Chad. Jacob's prediction excuse sounds like someone who's just got them all wrong and he's trying to find a scapegoat.
No.
It'll be a draw.
Well,
it's hard to predict in 50-50. He went 2-0 for Vitality. He went 2-0 for Navi last game.
So now
For
you think
Ents
he's
last
playing
game,
it safe?
Yeah.
Okay, well, predictions, look,
Yeah,
they're just
dude.
an idea to set the tempo for the viewer to have an idea of what to expect. They're not the actual narrative of what an analyst believes is going to happen. Because
Sounds like someone who's had some hate on Twitter.
Yeah, Cloud9 fans. They're asleep right now. I don't care. All right, anyway, so I'm going to get this one out of the way before we get into things. GGBet, one of the sponsors of this, have to get this out of the way. Head over to their website and use the code STARBET to get a $15 bonus on any single bet. Remember to gamble responsibly and do not bet what you aren't willing to lose. Now we can get stuck into this. Now, obviously, this is quite quick. You're thinking, didn't we just see Na'Vi play? Didn't Simple just absolutely destroy the hopes and dreams of Finnish players and fans around the world? Yeah, we did.
And the bed sheets.
They had the choice, right? Because in this format right here, we're just doing 3 best-of-3s a day. It meant that one quarterfinal. This is how it used to be for the majors back in the day, ladies and gentlemen. It meant that one of them had to be played today, and that was the Ents versus Na'Vi affair. They had the choice to play straight away or to have the break. Now, to have the break is actually, I can understand that. It makes a lot of sense. You can decompress, you can actually eat, you can do a little bit of counter-shredding, but to go straight into it, you're warmed on up, you're ready and raring, and so is the game.
JKS behind the sandbags. Jacob adds to that as well. Electronic down. Hello, Lias. He takes out Zeus inside of the site. At the point you're going to make is that if you're already coming out of the game, it's more than just warm-up in terms of muscle memory, in terms of feeling limber. It's the mental warm-up. It's the fact that the adrenaline's going. As soon as you let that mental side have any relaxation at all, you feel exhausted. If the series in between goes 3 maps, you sit here exhausted for twice as long. So I understand wanting to get things underway. Also means your stuff's already in the booth. You don't have to set up again later. Flamey in the booth, but in the house, it's got Simple to work with. They'll wrap around, make contact with each other, but no one else. That means they have to be in the back of the site. Lias and Gratis faction looking solid. It's all right. They could be a little groggy. They did get up to go eat. There will be a little bit of tempo to shift back into for Na'Vi.
Yeah, there'll be a digestion period, that's for sure. Now,
interesting stat, just to point out really quickly because it matters, from Peter from HLTV. Renegades are 10 for 10 in converting the second round after pistols. However, Na'Vi are 7 for 12 in stealing the second round when losing the pistol.
Yeah, and we had that on Overpass where Na'Vi are actually, in the last 6 months, the best team in the world at converting that second round break. So right here, the Force Buy will come in. They're going to give that yet another crack. So let's see if Renegades will stand true to their 100% or if Na'Vi can finally break that streak. We do have a lot of notes to go off of the Na'Vi game that we did see on Inferno not that long ago, so we can bring up a lot of things there, especially on the CT side when they were blown out of sites they were just saving. I feel like they will have learned from that and they're going to be a little bit more aggressive this time round, but we have to wait and see how this one plays on in. Renegades' unorthodox approach coming in through the apps position with 4 players here. Electronic on the balcony. If they go dry and don't have too many tells, he could get wrecked.
Could. Electronic takes out Jacob, drops back down, CZ75. This is what we were talking about with Navi. Simple couldn't collect, but he has enough damage that Flamey certainly can. That 10 for 10 record might be tarnished, and it might now be 8 for 13. Navi, second round masters in this event. I think the food's settled.
Yeah, just 1 round. That's all they needed. Renegades, they're not necessarily...
Oh, Edward.
He's getting left hanging right now, and we're catching that for the video at home. Eventually got it in. Renegades aren't the team either to just rest on their laurels and give this up. They want to fight for control, and this goes back to Azza in the day, who was a player who liked to take the fight to the opponents. Well, now he's in-game leading. He has to make the call, and they're going to go for 4 deagles. CZ75 in the hands of Gratis Faction. A little bit of utility for Jacob and Grat as well.
Grat-a-tat-tat.
So damage being done to Jacob early. Down to 54 points of health. And use a nade to soften up anybody playing close towards Boiler. Right now, Na'Vi are postured towards the top of Banana. They have a pretty good hold with Flamey and Zeus right now. That could turn into a flank that Liaz will have to caretake over towards T-Stairs. Simple. Outside with the Orb. A couple of warning shots will come on out here. Huge amount of damage done to anybody early. Renegades doing a good job about showing themselves and forcing out utility. But if you look at the guns from Na'Vi, based on that force buy, 2 AKs, 3 Orgs. Bloody Nora. Only the 3rd round in the game here, and that's already very scary.
Jacob. Gonna back away from quad. Deagle shots out. Flamey. Yes, sir. I thought he would get a little more than just the 2. Oh. Still could be good. Grat's got the bomb and he's got an AUG, and there's only 1 player in the B site. So Zeus has pressure applied. He knows it. Flash over. He'll just keep creating distance until said time that he can see. They see him instead. Gets 1 and the low HP should confirm it. Bomb down. Good hold.
We were just noting off the last game that, well, I think we kind of found ourselves on the same page. Zeus playing the best, if not some of the best Counter-Strike that we've ever seen him play.
That might be good that there's not a break then.
Yeah.
Because if he's coming off a series like that, he definitely wants to keep going.
And confidence and momentum will be able to carry on through. We've got a replay right here. Now Renegades will have to concede. So Flamey only gets 2 there. Maybe feels a little bit robbed he didn't get more, but Zeus will mop up the mess, get the last 2 over towards B side. That was 3 for him in the round because he had to win a duel with Liaz down towards the bottom of Banana as well. Renegades will concede, unable to force this one back into a round-for-round battle. And now they're going to bring out the Glocks. So just to note, if you did miss the Ents versus Na'Vi game, it was on this map. It was the pick of Na'Vi in the first series, Inferno, where Simple had to win an absolutely insane round to turn the tide of what was basically the entire best of 3, get them back into Inferno, and then carry them through with the momentum into Overpass. Flamey getting very aggressive down Banana here. Take down Gratis Faction. So an interesting thing here is with this veto, Renegades have chosen to pick Inferno. The second map will be Mirage. So both of these first 2 maps are very good for Renegades. You can think to yourself, oh, why didn't they pick Mirage? You know, why didn't they pick this lane? Well, I think both these teams, map pools, they line up pretty nicely. Renegades obviously had a couple of blunders on Case recently. They don't play Overpass. Na'Vi do play Overpass. We just saw that where they took the series away from Ents. So, you know, the other 5, pretty even fielders. Renegades are just being dispatched off with ease. It's just JK out to the left. He'll go down to Electronic. A nice clean round. All 5 stay alive for Na'Vi. And their money looking hot to trot after winning that force by round. Let's see Renegades approach right now. One thing that Ents were able to do was get Banana time and time again off of a basic default. You know, having Sergey as that point man, lots of flashes coming over. They were winning that duel more often than not. And when they're able to get opening kills, especially to that B side, it just forced Na'Vi to save a lot. They weren't going for too many retakes. So let's see the tempo of this one.
This faction very quick, it seems. Pretty close to the cubby, and potential for Molotovs to push him forward, segregate him from his teammates. That's happened for a moment, but only a moment. Lias will follow in tow. So 2 inside Banana. Both sides, to be fair. The 3rd rotating over to B, Flamey down. Good thing they rotated early. Edwards there. And they can't go quickly on the back of that kill alone because of the utility that's still in place. They've, in fact, rotated what is now a fourth, although there's 3 alive. Over. Simple started to get closer from CT. There's not a lot of pressure on A, so he knows he has time to rotate back, and that's what they're doing, thinking they may have fallen off this. Unfortunately, Navi's kind of gambling without any information, and they've left Zeus to hold solo once again. Very passive on A as well.
Yeah, this was a problem they had because they were leaning a lot of players towards that arch side when they're in these situations to be able to get to B as quickly as possible if the lone defender needed help. But at least this time round they have Edward postured a little bit more forward here. We can see standing behind the barrel on this quad side. Multi-kills definitely came up big for him on that overpass game. We didn't mention his name too much, but he was influential, that's for sure. He's going to have to do a lot of work here as the bomb is actually on Gratisfaction towards the arch side, so Simple gets to receive.
Find out from Edward, though, that he's got talent enough to shut them down.
It's the mid to B.
He's ready for it. He's left B to hold them off. And he's not recovering position. He's ahead of it. Now he knows they're going to be walking in from Banana. It's caught crossing over as his feet were not planted firmly on the ground to fire the shot. He falls, but Electronic does not for one.
Those are the situations where previously Zeus would get one and be done or get none, you know, have a whiff. Here, in 2 key rounds, he's had some multi-kills against the mid to B, which has been instrumental in stifling Renegades early. That momentum from their series victory against Ents, we're only 5 rounds into this one. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but at least from the individuals it seems to be there, they seem to be on point. They don't need to warm into the series at all. They're already piping hot. Renegades are the ones who have to, first of all, demand respect.
Fresh off this map as well. Let's not forget Simple's clutch. The fact that they were actually down in the first half for a period of time. They had a good lead. Renegades in a similar situation to what Ents found themselves in.
For the longest time, Renegades were a very slow starting team. You know, they weren't really winning pistols. They weren't getting into games. They were, you know, 5, 6, 7 rounds down. Then they started to get back into things. At this tournament, at least, at the major, I think you could maybe say the same. You have to go look at the details of their matches. But it felt like they weren't starting as slowly. It felt like they were getting into games quicker. And obviously that pistol round statistic that we were just talking about before, that really helps in that regard.
Maybe this is the litmus test now for Renegades because Ents fell shy on Inferno. Can they beat them? Can they go one better and actually put another line in that argument? Four AUGs and an AK on the CT side. 4 Deagles and a CZ on the Renegade side.
And 4 players at A for Na'Vi.
Zeus looks away just as they start out. But he'll cover off the arch instead, so he's still in position because they were slow to get there. Nice shot, Gratisfaction. Edward steps back out for the bomb site, though, only for 2. Looked away, didn't expect more. And Liaz is able to get the shot back into him.
They've got the bomb, they can go mid to B.
Oh, no! Electronic.
Wait, they know.
He left early, but Simple's still in the pit. This might catch them off. They might think they're completely clean. He knows where they're coming from. He still has the AUG. Takes down the second one that was picked up. Az's got one to work with as well and just wants to get the bomb plant down with 10 seconds. You're right, they could have gone to B, but it would have been a tough ask because they didn't know what waited on the other side, and there wasn't a lot of time to mess with. The kill toward the hay bales forced them to go back, and Simple was alone.
Simple knows that he's stuck on the site here. He's called that across to Flamey. It's only going to be a matter of time before they close down on Az's position. And there it is. Simple doing a lot of work right there. A round that looked dicey for a moment. And the 4-man A stack works.
Part of me almost thinks that Simple would have wanted Electronic to go early because they had the double stack in pit, and then it does actually encourage them to come back toward him with such little time on the clock. They wanted that information as fast as possible.
And just to note for the viewer at home how that might play in, the normal hold towards B is Zeus and Flamey. With Zeus dying towards CT spawn and then Electronic and Edward falling but Simple not showing, maybe they thought that Simple was over towards the B bomb site with Flamey in that round because occasionally they'll play that 3-man pack locking down that sector of the map. So that is the information that could have come on in that lured them into a false sense of confidence because Renegades, all the teams right now, look at the tendencies as much as they can. Oh, this is an aggressive mid play. This is different.
This is very different. It's different as well because the op's in the hands of Flamey so he can stay toward B. Instead of rotating Simple back and forth, they leave Flamey there to use it. Nice, Nate.
Yeah, just to note from that, they didn't actually push, but with the Molotov, then they smoked out their own Molotov, which allowed them to throw multiple deep HEs towards the T ramp, potentially taking advantage of their default. I think this is Renegades going to go into a B hit because we can see 2 players coming back through the chicken pit, 3 players already towards the top of Banana, but Na'Vi right now reading them like a book, 3 players over towards the B bomb site, and Zeus is going to get flashed out any second.
Flashed out. As as you say. A lot of bullets on the first. Somehow transfers to get Azza as well. Finds 2, and that's good enough in that situation. Simple, he's here now. He has rotated over this time. Flamey alongside him with the AWP at Coffins. Crypt Keeper. Simple gets removed spectacularly from Jacob. Flamey still waits though, and they've already crossed over. Great position to work from. Fire in. I'm surprised he does, because they could push the smoke and go against him with a flash, given that it is an op. They now know where it is. He's got some support.
Well, they're boosting over.
And they are going to boost over to check new box. No one there that he can see. It's not exactly clear. They're going to have to let that smoke fade just a little bit more to really confirm the position, or they're just going to go for it.
Flamey can smoke the bomb here.
Flash doesn't do anything to Jacob. Second one goes too deep as well. He's got full vision. He's got full vision. He sees them sticking out, so he sprays in. Right call. JKS still holding from water as well. Knows electronics coming in from CT. They're not done there, though, because they still have to find Flamey, who could potentially trade. JKS keeps his head down. He just wants to buy time. Powerful angle that favors him, and he'll hold it and get the second for Renegades. He'll go down. Oh, he switched over just in time.
Yeah. But look, I guess that's a nice little segue right now. JKS winning that clutch situation. Going into this series, he is the 3rd highest rated player in the tournament. Only behind Simple #1 and Electronic at #2. You have Jacob as well. I think he's within the top 10 players in the tournament thus far. He's been having a massive impact for Renegades. He just seems to be a quiet achiever, Jacob, right? You know, he gets the job done. And it's not enough to break the money of Na'Vi, but it's enough to make them have to organize their weaponry, decide who's going to get what. Edward with a FAMAS. Simple will have the big green out. Electronic is on the M4. Zeus is on an AUG. I assume there's a gun on the ground for Flamey to pick on up, but we can't see that right now. Renegades, 4 AK-47s. Gratisfaction has his AWP in hand. So Deagle for Flamey. Doesn't actually have a rifle to work with this time round. Get this one back underway. Different approach from Renegades here. This might be more direct towards A. Normally they have 3 players towards the T-stairs / banana. This time they've got 3 going towards alt middle. So a change of pace. It looks like they want to go quite swiftly up middle. Simple's post up in banana. This could be great timing from Renegades, taking advantage of the 3-player lockdown on banana, and now they go quick.
Already around, but gets caught by Electronic repeat from Odo, and he holds off Arch twice. Not just the first kill, the second on the Azza. Wants to peek back out and get aggressive to recovery. Meanwhile, Flamey, behind the smoke, has a Deagle to work with. There's 2 smokes down. 1 defensive, 1 offensive, if you want. Not to be confused with the 2019 social trend of being offended. As he tries to get a Deagle shot that does fade in favor Liaz. Couldn't totally isolate Pitt, but they've removed him anyways. He wanted to shuffle back out. It may not matter. There's still 3 inside of the site, and ultimately, Pitt's valuable, but the bomb has to go to the site to be planted, so.
Yeah, lots of time, though, and great patience from Renegades just posturing in case, because they knew that Flamey was towards the pit. They have taken him down, but I guess they didn't expect so many guns.
Headshots. All you see. Easy to fire at, but they turn back and do the same to him. JKS getting Electronic on an immediate trade. 2 on 2, 3 kills all to Electronic. No one else contributing as of yet.
They have to stay sight right now. They don't know where Simple is in this whole flurry.
Oh, Electronic is going to, or excuse me, Gratisfaction is going to slide out. That forces Simple off the angle. It means now he can hold, but he goes passive. Still knows they're going to be working from this direction, so that could still work in his favor. Smoke down, covers out JKS. All on Grat. Bomb ticking faster. Simple's gone. It might end with Electronic getting the only kills in the round because Zeus is left not sure what to do. That'll do indeed.
JKS
Find
is hidden.
Gratisfaction, but JKS does use the smoke to his advantage, and Zeus couldn't get to that in the end.
2 rounds, 2 situations where JKS has had to close out the 1vx situations. That one obviously felt a little bit easier to do during the context of the bomb ticking. But the fact that they got back in that round, that was a 3-on-5, right? Flamey overextended towards quad. I don't know if he was playing for information or what, but he gets taken down, and then the rest of the players from Renegades, they just posture. Grat, Liaz, JKS, they're in no rush, and then they pounce onto the side as a pack. Huge kills to crack it open, and good work to play that post-plant situation without overextending, without giving too much away. This has forced Na'Vi down to just the pistols. And the first map, that we saw today of Na'Vi, they only managed, I think it was 6 rounds on their CT side, and there were lots more saves. Here it already appears that they want to go for more rounds, but it hasn't been in the same flow. So as this half goes on, we'll see if there's anything changing with their approach, but still Zeus is on form. He's had some fantastic multi-kills here. He's going to go again. There is a flash, a smoke on electronic, but Zeus is going to go dry. Not able to get anything done this time round. Damage done to Jacob, that's about it. Still have a P250 for Flamey and a CZ for electronic, so they're not out of the woods just yet, are the Renegades.
Flamey. It's traded off immediately. Pistol's only able to do so much. Does get in with the AK. He'll fire at the smoke a few times. No one waiting on the back of it, trying to wrap back in from ruins. Address the same smoke to make things a little more complicated for Na'Vi. I don't think it's complicated at all. I think the answer is pretty straightforward. Get out. There's not much to win here. Not much to lose, though, either, I suppose you could argue. So if by chance they can keep a few around the bomb, get a few guns down. A little more expensive. Jacob's going to run toward Banana. That's one electronic strikes. Exactly that. There's one more. UMP now makes this more menacing.
That's the AWP down, though.
Yeah, it is. Got an electronic. Simple got the shot in return. This
really
is down to just 2 alive. Bomb's still ticking. Simple's got Azza. He's got the AWP and gets away. That turned out. Oh, he didn't. He lost it. He lost it to the bomb, but still, that turns out very well considering if they just walked away from it.
Yeah.
They would have done no economic damage.
Good crack, all things considered, that's for sure. And buying back into this will be Na'Vi now. The scoreline 5-4 in favor of the Ukrainian/Russian side here. Renegades have mounted a little bit of a mini comeback. After winning pistol, they were broken, went down 5 rounds straight. Now they've posted 3 of their own. But you can see what that's meant. Gratisfaction doesn't have an AWP going into this round. He only has a Galil. They've gone with a lot of utility. Appears they've gone back to business as usual as well. Azza towards Banana, Liaz in tow, Gratisfaction throwing the supportive flashes and nades, Jacob and JKS making sure that they can clear out Boiler and Halls when the clock permits it. So top Banana has already been taken from Renegades. The next step is making sure that they can get Boiler and the Halls position. And it looks like they want to just go straight back towards A, but they have to deal with 3 players over towards this quad position. We've got Edward up close and personal, Electronic in the site, and then it's just Simple's position of being on the balcony watching Boiler. That could be the real spoiler here. Renegades are postured in alt mid. They've got Jacob and Boiler. They're ready to execute. This is going to come in any second.
Good position for Simple. Tries to just look downwards onto them, and that's how he feels about life, perhaps. Such disdain. And he's got time to get the gun back out. Smoke, they back off. I thought they might push through to try and take him down. Massive
Big gap.
Massive. Bigger gap in that smoke than in Madonna's teeth. Gratisfaction goes the other way instead. They get caught out for it. Bomb down in the arch. Good recovery to get electronic, but that's when Zeus strikes. Bomb down yet again, and Simple. He just came back around and finished what he started.
So the closeness of that eco round previously, with all the guns being taken away and Jacob being the only member to survive, now we're really seeing what that means for Renegade's economy. The most money on the board is JKS with 3350. Everybody else around that mid 2K mark. So they're just going to go for a light pistol upgrade and see if they can do the same, see if they can keep Na'Vi honest. Take away a couple of guns, get a plant. The best you can hope for in this situation. So pause is going to come to an end. You can see the frags on the screen. Electronic towards the top. Flamey playing quite a good game at this point. 9 for him, 9 for Zeus. Edward down there on 5. The other side of things you could see that was a little bit of a struggle street for Azza with 2 kills to his name, but they still managed 4 rounds on the board, and we're only 10 rounds into things. So Na'Vi are already poised to get more rounds in this second bout of Inferno today than what they did in the previous piece. On board with Simple here as they've gone 3 towards top Banana. They're just going to aggressively deploy their utility to make sure Renegades can't take Banana for free this time around. Na'Vi are going to posture towards the top barrel position, and they're going to hold on to it. There's not really too much necessity for them to fall back. They can keep 1 player spotting, and that will be Zeus. Jump spot, jiggle peek. As Renegades want to go and try and find some picks towards A. Player under the porch here of Edward. He has to be careful.
Be careful. But from the right side of the pillar, that'll do. Simple should collect the hat trick while Edward gets 2. It's a full house between them. And 7-4 for Na'Vi as a result. Slower pace, but now we get back into some straight gunfire. On that Works out as Liaz has 4,700. There will be no up on the T side. Not the worst thing in the world on Inferno. There's not one on the CT side either, though.
I'm expecting a really fast play from Renegades here. They've been getting banana control relatively easily. And they do have pocket traps that they can pull out if they need to, but no, it's just the same as usual. This time, they're going to push into banana. They're going to have to drop their own smokes to extinguish the Molotovs of Na'Vi. Gratz is eventually going to post it on out. Now the flash is going to come over so he can push forward. Nade's going to land on his head. More grenade damage onto Liaz as well. Pushing forward regardless. Flamey, he's forward. He gets the first. He gets the second. Flamey wrecking the banana take. And now Azza, he's left behind the smoke. Not a hope in hell. As everybody has dropped on out of B. But look how much pressure is applied to A, actually. Jacob's already pushing up quad side.
This could be massive for them. Rotate in. Electronic doesn't even realize it. He had no clue at all. He thought he was clean. He just ran out, didn't even have his crosshair anywhere near there. That causes enough commotion to catch off Edward down below, but Flamey does at least give an argument to this. He's got 3. And Simple
he's
jumping up.
coming.
He knows that it's toward depot because he's cleared everywhere else. Oh, has it. Got the first, nearly got back in to get a headshot behind the barrels, but it's now 8-4. Na'Vi again controlling the situation. Bomb plant down. 3 in a row. So they'll be in a position where they could potentially buy off of this. It's going to be tight, and they might concede and hold pistols because Az's already bought a CZ75.
Well, you can definitely tell that it was an in-game leader in that position, right? Sometimes you'll see a player in a clutch scenario where it's a 1-on-3 situation, and instead of going to get the bomb down to give your team a little bit extra
They try
cash,
and go crazy.
Yeah, they try and win that clutch situation, right? Well, Azza, he's playing for the future rounds. He knows that that's in the back of his head, that he has to call a strat in the next, so get that bomb down, get the 40-second clock started, and give yourself a chance from there. But it will be the pistol upgrade because Renegades will have a lot of money. Next round's going to be a fast beat. They're coming quick.
Flamey just waiting it out. Can't do anything behind the sandbags. You said it, fast play from
Renegades.
They're all low. But they are extremely low. And there's only 2 left, and they're already pushing down from Banana because 2 kills to Edward at the bottom side of it. It's going to make a massive problem for Lias, who's removed by a grenade. And I think the rebound will be removed. Bomb plant at least. So 4+ bonus this time. Smokes off Ruins. He'll give it a crack because why not at this point in time? But the smoke fading. Tags on Simple.
Making this hard.
It certainly is. And they're taking their time. He's got Simple down and couldn't quite snap over to find Edward. They timed it. They peeked together, and Simple knew they had to. So 9th round at least for the CT side.
Gratisfaction won that 1v3 yesterday on Mirage. It's a very big round in the context of that series. Low HP there, not able to get it done, but with the plant, with the competitive nature of that round, I thought he was going to get an AWP out, but he's only gone for the AK-47 again, so maybe something decided from Azza in the previous of what they were going to run on the following gun round. Simple has an AK, so does Edward. 3 AUGs in play, so there are 3 scopes on the board, but no AWPs, no big greens coming out here. Once again, default banana take from the Renegades.
Wants to work around and take the fight despite the utility going
Look
down.
at the nades.
He is already on 33 HP.
Renegades picked this map, and when you think about what maps are in their disposal in the veto, right? Renegades getting rid of Overpass, Cage going out from the side of Na'Vi. They do play Nuke, but it's not something that they, pick to play very often. Mirage, Train, Inferno, obviously in their Dust too. We saw them have a really good performance on that yesterday. So for them to pick Inferno and know that they could get Mirage either as a 3rd map or later down the piece, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it also feels like in this situation, all 3 maps are good for both teams.
Simple just waiting, biding his time. Got the reverse angle toward the door. Didn't actually get the kill. He thought he had. He looked away too soon. Nade will confirm it. Yeah, he knows that. Oh, where did it go? Oh, wow. JKS got thrown up away. Doesn't matter because Simple is always close by. Lias and Gratisfaction find out the hard way. And he may get another. He's not quite going to because it's behind the pillar. JKS seems to be a problem for him this round because he's the one that got away and then came all the way around to haunt him in the end. A 10-4. No less, as Navi will get the defuse again. So it's now 1-5, 3-5 is the way that breakdown of the score goes.
So Renegades, if they get this in the pistol, they'll keep that little streak alive, that's for sure. So no, we were talking about Jacob being one of the highest rated players in the tournament thus far, definitely within the top 10 if I was reading rightly earlier. He's only sitting there on 5 kills at the moment, but he is a default player over towards the boiler and hold position, a bit of a tempo setter, so he hasn't been in a lot of the action towards this banana piece, at least off the bat. Renegades are going to just rinse and repeat, do the same, and hope this time they can come out on top of the trades and damage early. Same volley. Grenades and banana, and Liaz will take a chunk of damage yet again. It's just absolute back and forth nature here, and it seems like with the damage, oh, Flash is going to come over. Flamey's going to get a chance to push.
Flamey, great push as well. Second, as Liaz falls, he'll back off. No need to pursue the third. They can be, I'm sure, very content.
They're really settled in, aren't they?
Well, this goes to show what you were saying. Stay warmed up. Stay focused. They could cruise to a grand final in one day, from quarters to semis, and then see you tomorrow. Bob's your relative.
Yeah, Jacob is currently 7th in the tournament, obviously not taking in the stat lines of this game thus far, yeah. Above him is Ethan, Nico, Crims, and then it goes JKS, Electronic and Simple. So I was reading rightly. They need him to show up, especially in this second half, as it's looking likely that Renegades will go down 11-4 to Na'Vi.
All right, yep, that's fine. Just style on them.
Cool, man.
Steps out, Simple finds 2 more. Azza gets his head removed as well by Zeus, who continues to have fine form. 11-4. And just to note, Zeus on that form has 12 kills. Simple has 18. Everyone's in double digits at 12 or higher. On the other side, only 2 reach double digits at 10, and that's JKS and Liaz.
Yeah, so for Renegades, feels like for the longest time they were quite a CT-heavy side. When we talk about the game that they were able to take off Astralis at the major, that was all done through a massive haul of the CT side. Obviously, they had overtime to go through. But that's a positive sign for potentially a close series, but it has to start with the pistol round, and we'll get that Counter-Strike cliche out the way very quickly. If you look at the history of this Renegades team together, they haven't had Liaz and Gratisfaction in the roster for the longest of times. It's been a decent chunk now, but they've already played 115 maps together, sorry, not 155. They have 74 wins to 41 losses, that's including LAN and online. And for their Inferno games, it's their most played map. They played it 31 times, 120, lost 11. Their pistol round win percentage is pretty abysmal at 41.9%. So here, let's see if they can get anything going. And their share of rounds is actually pretty 50-50 overall.
Simple already behind the logs. He might get a chance to get in on that. Oh, high peek. Look to the bottom of Banana. Now he'll reveal that he is there, as he and Electronic want to chase them back to the site.
Three players on this B bomb site right now for Renegades, so if it is just a hit onto this site, obviously this is smoke towards CT spawn. They're sitting in a pretty decent position. Flamey over towards Halls right now. I'm not sure how they want to use him, but it feels like they're trying to bait out something from Renegades here. They're trying to make them hold as many players there for as long as they can. Just shooting some bullets, making a couple of footsteps, and now they're going to corral themselves back down towards middle. And that's going to be Gratisfaction in the pit alongside Liaz. This is the 2 new additions, the youngsters. They have to go big right now.
Electronic already wrapping in. Split.
They're going to go through this smoke.
They might. With 3 on B, even if they go CT, it's going to be a huge problem for them. And it looks like that's what they want to do. Bomb's still holding at the mid wall because it waits for the call.
This is odd right now. This is a very strange play.
I don't mind it because there's a small detail in the fact that Electronic was searching to see if anyone had left the B side. He didn't get any information, so stick with the time. 24 seconds, get to A. Liaz starts it off, but now it's just one man to hold, and it is he. Then has to step back out, and Zeus again finds him. They now know the site's clear.
Now Renegades with Jacob very low from that early exchange, and Banana 21 points of health to his name. Absolutely no way back into this round. They have to come up middle, all 3 of them. The defuse kit is in play in Az's hands, but over towards the window. There's Edward.
So fast. So fast. Electronic is trying to find the angle. Edward just says, I'll come back around and take that one too. Thank you very much. And it's Jacob just kind of holding his own.
Trying to save.
Got a diffuse kit and armor.
He still has a 100 armor there, so he can upgrade the head armor cheaper, and he can hold on to that diffuse kit. But he might get found here.
I don't think he's going to. Simple's not going to go that far. He would check ruins before he goes that way. The armor went to 99, Chad.
Damn.
Bomb should not do damage to armor.
Damn.
I had that. Henry and I theorized about this. It would be such a minuscule change, I think, that
people wouldn't even
it
really
would be
notice.
welcome. Yeah, I mean, it's going to save you money, not cost you money. So it's
Sure.
actually strengthening the economy.
Yeah, it's going to be really frustrating for Jacob in that situation. You can see the scores. Well, no, you can't. You guys can see the tactical pause. We can see the scores.
Scores on the doors.
But the tactical pause right now is a big choice for Renegades, because if they choose to force by right now and fight for the economy, that's basically the map if they lose. So right now, Kassad and Azul will be talking through the options. Do we take the conservative round? Do we take the save and then go and have to fight back round after round and hope we can get a string together, a slew, as it were? Or do we force buy? Do we give it our all right now and potentially lose this map 16-4? And it looks like they're going to go for the force buy option. 2 UMPs, 5.7, 2 CZ75s. This one has a lot of importance for the Renegades right now. This could be a blowout to kick things off, and Na'Vi getting the opportunity to come straight into this one. Maybe the new play if we ever have quarterfinals on the same as the semis ever again.
Yeah, could be an interesting way to do it. That is lovely. Sees it back, gets a fist. Electronic finds JKS as well, so 3 kills over 3 players. Flamey and Zeus, the only 2 not to find them. Maybe their turn. Zeus next in line. No, didn't quite go the way to plan. That will get away from it, but unfortunately for him, there's a lot more work to do. Trying to go for Flamey, who shuts him down. And Jacob is up well and removed from the picture. Back around with that 99 armor. That's meant his head was exposed, and Electronic removes it from him, 13-4.
So I suppose to back that up of why I'm saying that decision right there is basically the game, is because now Renegades realistically have to save. They could go for another force buy, but they're going up against it. They don't have anything to work with by any means, right? They have 2,400. So they will take the save right now. So that pretty much guarantees 14 for Na'Vi. Renegades then have to battle all the way back 10 rounds straight just to tie things up at 14-14. Or they'd have to get 12 rounds out of what's remaining to even have a chance in this game, right? So, well, that would be to win it. But it just seems like a very unlikely situation. Fluff will come over the middle. Simple's going to deal with what he can. Eventually, he'll be taken down by JKS, who bounces back. Problem is, for Renegades, if it is a 16-4, they haven't had any time to warm into this game where Na'Vi is still hot from their last. So I'm not saying that that's a huge positive as Flamey takes down 3 big scouts. Edward wants the last one.
I like how the Chinese crowd doesn't get to see as many big events.
Sure.
That was against Pistols, okay. But it was still impressive spray transfer, and they cheer for the skill, just the skill aspect.
Yeah.
Not even necessarily the impact. Sometimes people are too cool on Reddit to say, oh, it didn't matter. It was against Nico, man. Anyone could do that. Well, didn't see you do it, first off. And second off, it's still nice to see the mechanics that are really good.
That was a good
So
impression.
I appreciate that they, thank you.
You been working on that one?
No, actually, I just pulled that one out right now. I just thought if I talked as slowly as possible, I would echo the IQ level of those people.
Sure,
posting.
but you still managed to put through a coherent sentence, so that's where you messed on up.
Fair enough. But yeah, it's nice to see them applaud the skill.
Sure. Electronic's going to get burnt all the way down here, and we've seen him playing in smokes time and time again. This time he's actually going to get out of dodge, not going to hang around to potentially have his life taken away with him by a stray bullet. Jacob will get down to the tree position where there is no longer a tree.
Right? What's the only position that, well, okay, that's left too, because there's still a tree towards CT here.
True.
I was going to say tree on Cash, but Cash is also removed from the pool, so
There used to
I was
be
wrong twice.
Used to be a tree in the pit on Inferno and Source that you could actually boost on with, like, I think you need like 3 or 4 players.
Yeah, I can't remember all the Source stuff. I didn't play
super
it enough.
geeky. So by having Jacob had pushed all the way down and cleared out Banana, that means Renegades can lean 4 players over towards the A-bomb site. They have 2 on the arch side. They have 1 in the pit and 1 quad. But the late initiation with the Molotov pumping up Banana right now is going to force Jacob to drop on back. He doesn't have any grenades to defend with, so he has to play passive towards the Orange's position. That's going to leave JKS and Limbo on the highway or speedway position to have to rotate between Azza and Jacob. And now as the clock is on 30 seconds, the bomb is down towards the bottom of Banana, and it feels that they want to throw more nades towards the top. but they still have 2 players positioned in Boiler and Hall. So it either could be an A fake here to draw the rotate. No, it's going to be A. The bomb is now coming back down. There's 24 seconds left on the clock. It has to be the A bomb side, but Renegades have stacked 3 towards B.
Grats. At least gets Edward. That'll make things much easier. 17 seconds. Bomb still toward the Boiler doorway. It's a long passage. In fact, I take it back. It's topside mid. Otherwise, Grat would have had the angle. Still does hit Zeus. Nearly switched over, but Simple and Flamey got the kills. And you're right. There's just enough time to get on the plant.
Does he have it?
I think he did. I think just barely did. He went in to save himself. Didn't want to stay default because there could have been a potential someone was behind them at middle, just as we saw in the last clutch from Simple. But he almost cost him the ability to even get the bomb down.
Renegades are now in a similar position to what we saw Na'Vi in their CT side, like having to retake. They have no kit. There's no door back in, and they're going to save. They're conceding 15 without a fight at all. This is a blowout of a game right here. Na'Vi are showing they're a top 3 team.
Yeah, this is more like it. I've been impressed this event with Na'Vi. Slow start, mind you. Remember,
always a slow start.
It's like their thing, right? Fnatic used to be a bit like that too. Even in their dominant era, they were really slow in group stages. So the ability to close this out now at 15-4. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say it's like maybe the fire in the belly, right? Because we know that they're quite a fiery team. Maybe they need to, have the wake-up call of a loss.
I was considering that. Like, they almost have to be a little angry to play.
Yeah.
So in the first game, if they're too calm and they're not yelling at each other, maybe they just don't rise to the occasion. They need to get a little pissed off first.
Which is just a wild thing to think about, but it doesn't really matter because it's definitely working now. Think about the string of games.
That's where Kane needs to just abuse them before the game. You guys suck. You're not going to win this. I need better. And then they just get mad from that, and then they win everything.
He doesn't really look like the type of guy that I'd be scared of being yelled at by.
Nah.
Maybe because it would be in Ukrainian, then I would be a bit scared because I wouldn't know what he's saying. But if it was a native.
Jacob does take down Zeus. All the way back inside of the site.
All right, so if we look at one positive, they do have the opening in this situation. Azur's going to go for a second. He is going to get it done, but he could be swung on from, I was going to say Boiler, but mid's actually going to be the damage. He hung around a little bit too long. Edward will trade that one out. Now it is a 4v3 situation. Still heaps of time to work with. They have 2 towards B and 2 towards A, but still a very big avenue for Na'Vi to get back into this round. The bomb is in limbo. It can play between both bomb sites depending on how the kills go. So maybe they're just going to let Flamey and Edward search while he waits.
Good nade.
2
HP. I thought it had him.
It's pulled the rotation, though. It's only left 1 player towards the back of the B bomb site.
Bombs here as well, but it's 2-on-1, so it's still a winnable situation for the defender. I thought maybe they'd leave Flamey, there you go, to try and lurk back and cut rotations, but he almost needs to be in a position to support his teammate. He's not. He's still in middle. He is still trying to cut rotations, but he's let one through, and now it's a 2-on-1 favoring the CTs. This should be Renegades picking up the round. Bomb down. That'll confirm it. And Flamey won't even bother going for it. He'll just stay over here with his 10K and his AUG.
He could try and do damage. He could try and push out and go for as many kills as he could to take them away, but now that the time's ticking on down, it doesn't matter if he dies after the time. You're right, he has 10 plus K. He's just seeing if anybody wants to push into his position. And Renegades, they realize if they lose guns, they're not going to be able to have an appropriate buy because now it's do or die time, round after round. That noise, that gong that sounds, you're going to have to hear that for another 10 rounds straight if you want Renegades to be taking this one to overtime. And right now it feels like an inevitability until Na'Vi close this situation out. They have so many rounds to work with. They can do whatever they want. They can do super aggressive rounds. They can rush. They can take as many risks as they want. They don't need to play conservative by any means. There's so much wiggle room for them to work with right now. And I really like it when teams have this much space to do things a little bit more risky. To go for a couple more balls to the wall type plays because you're not giving away a lot. That nade, 1 second earlier, that could have landed on both of them. And now JKS, he has to deliver. And he won't.
Zeus will. He'll continue to deliver. Jacob overstepping perhaps, does win the duel. No one else inside of the smoke to punish him for it, so he'll get away, but 12 HP. It's going to make things a little bit awkward.
And they've rotated a player over to kind of bail him out. But all the movement early just works in the favor of Na'Vi here. They still have 1 minute and 10 seconds left on the clock. That applies pressure on these last 2 A defenders, which is going to be Liaz over towards Graveyard and Azur over towards the Arch position. I think Renegades have to take a bit of a gamble here if they want to stay in this round. They have to rely on their individuals for multi-frag, but so far in this game, they've been getting nothing done. And now Liaz, he has 3 to deal with.
does he peek? When does he try and go on this? Simple, he sees him up above. Likewise, he's spotted in return, smokes himself off, and Simple will take the initiative to get away. There's no need to stay up there. He left for dead. Simple gets Azza as a result. He got him as well. He got Lias. Oh. On top of the box. He might have done it. Electronic closes Satisfaction. Game done in one shot further. And they're one map up, winning 3 maps in a row in both series combined. Renegades need to respond. What a performance.
Well, the first series today definitely delivered. This one here fell a little bit flat, but at least one thing we can look towards is the individuals of Na'Vi continuing to deliver. We got Simple on 23 kills. Flamey, he's stepped up to performance hugely. 21 to his name. Electronic on 18. 15 for Edward and 14 for Zeus. But everybody from this side was getting it done. Look how happy Zeus is.
It seems like he's having actually just a bit of a laugh, joking around the crowd.
And why the hell not? Because going up against Renegades, I spoke about this with the similar thing with like MIBR versus Renegades, etc. These are teams that they used to beat down on time and time again, and now obviously the shoes on the other foot. Renegades are a team on the rise. They're a team playing the ABCs of Counter-Strike. They're showing some really good performances, but the respect level, it has to be earned. You have to beat them time and time again before it gets drilled into the back of the head that you aren't those players of old. You're something new. You're a new brand of Counter-Strike, and Renegades here, they've really felt it. They go to Mirage next.
Yes, and well, as we say, if this is the litmus test, okay, sure, Navi's a little bit warmed up. This is not exactly what they wanted to start. Mirage next, Simple the way he's playing.
Yeah, it's going to be a really tough one there for Renegades, but the analyst desk on next. They're going to break down that. They're going to take a look at Mirage, and we'll be back to bring you all the